We just got in a tweet from the president-elect Donald Trump on Twitter. The president-elect says Toyota Motors said will build a new plant in Baja, Mexico to build Corolla cars for U.S. No way build a plant in U.S. or pay big border tax. Certainly reminiscent of the tweet that he sent directed to General Motors earlier this week. For more on this story, let's get straight to Phil LeBeau. Phil.
And Melissa, this is very clear. You combine this with the General Motors tweet earlier this week from the president-elect. It's all about auto production in Mexico for vehicles that ultimately are sold in the United States. And he's making it very clear that he's going to put pressure on automakers at a minimum not to add production to Mexico, but for that production that's already there. And as we've reported, more than 3 million vehicles that are built in Mexico were sold in the United States last year. It's very clear. He's warning that there will be a border tax coming. Now, how that'll look, what it'll be, how it'll impact the parts suppliers as well as the automakers remains to be seen. But, I mean, it's very clear. This is all now about NAFTA auto production and how that impacts automakers and parts suppliers. It'd be very interesting to see how this plays out.
This is either a full frontal assault on NAFTA or a backdoor assault on NAFTA. You can look at it, I suppose, either way. But that's what it is, and that's why those plants were located in Mexico.
Right.
They got free trade.
Absolutely. Look, it's lower cost, and from there, we've talked about this before. It's not the primary reason, but Mexico has more free trade agreements with countries around the world than any other country. So as a result, if you build in Mexico, you can ship to Brazil. You cannot do that from the United States. If you build a vehicle in the U.S. and ship it to Europe, there's a 10% tax. You can't there's no 10% tax if you build in Mexico and ship to Europe. You're right about the primary market being the U.S. and Canada. That's the primary market for vehicles built in Mexico, but there are other reasons that are at play.
Phil, Michelle here at the NYSC. It's not just Donald Trump who's calling for a border tax. When you read the GOP plan, The Better Way, and they talk about tax reform and all these, the corporate tax reform is very explicit that they want to do. If you export from the United States, your corporate tax rate will fall to 0, and anything you import, you're going to pay 15 to 20%, depending on what the ultimate number is. I mean, this is something that's come into every single industry if the GOP gets its way, and if this is what Donald Trump is talking about, that we don't have clarity on that at this point.
Which then brings up the question, Michelle, if you are an automaker, really let's just talk about the auto industry overall, and you import all of these vehicles into the United States because there's demand there, and you're suddenly facing a tax, how do you replace that demand? You just can't build a plant overnight in the U.S. Some of that production that you can replace here in the United States, some of it could probably move to some excess capacity that's available in Canada, but you're not going to be able to replace that overnight. And also, you face the question, do I want to build a plant in the United States where the costs are higher? For some vehicles, makes a lot of sense. SUVs, trucks, pickups, people will pay the higher cost there. They're not going to pay the higher costs on a small, compact vehicle. They're just not. And so that's a question that the auto industry will face.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.